Brilliant. We will kick off. So hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I'm Holly, I'm community lead here at VenturePath. Today we are going to be talking about raising the stakes. So this is all around how do you get the growth, what's the growth that you need before a Series A raise, and how do you get that? So before I hand over to Ian, who you can see with the lovely red background waving on your screen, he's going to lead today's session. I just wanted to take a minute or two to tell you a little bit more about VenturePath and what we're doing with the community. So at VenturePath, our kind of mission is to help improve the UK scale-up ecosystem for everyone involved, not just founders. So we have built VenturePath as the growth investment community for UK tech founders. What I mean by that is we have brought together the content, the connections, the capital that you guys need in order to help you grow, raise, and scale faster. So we work with founders one-to-one on business growth planning, providing you guys a kind of clear 90-day plan to help you achieve your goals. So we have hundreds of hours of learning content within the community. This ranges everything from on-demand training videos right through to kind of in-person and on-demand events as well. We've built a community of fellow founders, exited entrepreneurs, scale-up experts, strategic partners. So all of these guys are experience and expertise that you can tap into as and when you need it on your journey. Last but not least is the capital part of it. So we support founders with investment strategy and deal making at Series A, Series B. So raising rounds anywhere between 2 and 20 million. We have got 18 VC partners opted in to support VenturePath founders, between them with a kind of a collective AUM of 6 billion. So thank you again for everyone for joining today. Hopefully this is going to be a useful session for you. I will be in touch with you all after today's session. So if this is the kind of one-to-one support that you're after when it comes to growth and investment, then let's have a chat. Let's book a call. Very, very quick housekeeping before I hand over to Ian. We are recording today's session. This is not being shared. It is purely for internal purposes. Secondly, this is going to be a super interactive session. So as and when you've got any questions, please pop them through the chat box. We've got time at the end, so we will make sure that we address them then. So anyway, Ian, over to you.
Thank you. Hi guys, thank you very much for joining us this morning. This is hopefully going to be a quick canter through some key tips that are going to help you get ready before you go out and talk to VCs. And there's a lot of talk, a lot of thought that goes into what growth should look like after a VC has backed you. But this session is about how do you present yourself in the best possible light before you even get into a room with a VC. My background was originally as a venture-backed entrepreneur. I built 3 businesses, and within those 3 businesses, I've raised all kinds of funding, including VC, as well as corporate funding and other sources of capital to grow your business, as is often the way as we're kind of hustling and trying to build a firm. And then since I had a reasonable exit a number of years ago, I've been on the investor side and advising and helping other companies to grow. I've worked on training and investor readiness for over 1,000 tech companies, which sounds like a big number, but if you divide it by the 10 years I've done that over, it becomes a bit more manageable. And we've helped those companies raise over $1 billion of funding. So hopefully some of what I'm going to give you today, even if it's very opinionated and delivered as absolute gospel fact, it's coming from a place of experience that hopefully creates some shortcuts for you. I now work with Holly. I lead VenturePath, and it's essentially an exclusive club to help the UK's tech scale-ups achieve their high growth potentials with support and the funding that they need. So that's kind of what we do, what I do for a day job, and where this feedback is going to come from. I've got 3 key topics today. The first thing, if I said to you, and I won't because I think you're automatically muted, but if I said to you, what is the biggest growth metric you need to show a VC, you would probably all consistently answer sales. And that's a bit obvious, right? So I'm not taking up your time this morning to talk about things you already know. Obviously, if you could grow sales, that's going to make your business look more attractive. It's going to help you hit the ever-growing metrics. Series A used to start at $1 million revenue. We saw it creep up to $1.5 million. We've seen it creep up now to 2 million, and more VCs are looking for greater proof points, greater evidence, and are scrutinizing a little bit harder about how clean your revenue is. Is there one-off revenue in there, consultancy revenue, setup fees? that'll all be stripped out of their assessment as to kind of whether you're ready. So there's absolutely an obvious bit of consideration that needs to go into making sure your sales are growing. But you know that, right? You're already doing that. That's your waking thought. It's your the thing that keeps you from sleeping well at night, is thinking about how you're going to grow sales in your business. So I get all of that. So let me just take a different take on that, a very slight tweak. Think about how you can demonstrate sales growth. Now, that isn't the same as purely just showing your historic sales figures, right? That's obviously a key part of it. I want to know what your monthly revenue, monthly recurring revenue is. I want to know what that looked like 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, how you're trending, how you're growing. But actually, what other things can you do that demonstrate that there's growth in the sales function of the business? Well, I would suggest there are 4 sub-points of this. One is so I'm going to say that there's 3 of these points, because I've already mentioned that the bar has risen. So the 3 key points are: have you got a repeatable sales engine? What does that mean? A horribly jargon-filled phrase, repeatable sales engine. Well, does that mean that you are able to communicate to an investor the fact that you understand fully the unit economics of your business? So what it costs you to capture a new lead, a new customer, what your conversion rate looks like, what the average order value is, what the upsell opportunity is. And by having assessed that data that, frankly, you've already got in your business, but by having really assessed that so that you can demonstrate quite clearly the unit economics of your business, you're beginning to talk to the point about the fact that this is scalable. This has got the potential to grow. Why is that an issue? Well, it's really an issue because at the stage approaching Series A, maybe you're at that $1.5 million, $2 million revenue. But up to that point, it is largely often founder-led sales. It is you guys driving things forward, kicking in doors, making things happen, and doing all of that great work. And that's brilliant, and that's got you to where you are now. But it hasn't necessarily given a VC the evidential proof that this scales beyond your energy. And you're going to run out of time. You're going to run out of contacts. You're going to run out possibly of energy. So how does that grow? And understanding your unit economics of how you've created a repeatable sales engine is one of those key aspects that engenders confidence in the VC that you can deliver an element of repeatability. It isn't just a case that you got lucky with a big client. It's a case that you've got 6 others of those big clients in a pipeline, that pipeline is properly weighted. You know the difference, and more importantly, your team, as small or as large as it may be, understand consistently the difference between a prospect that's at 10%. Maybe they've inquired about a demo. Maybe they've sent an email in your inbox, to a prospect that's at 50%. Maybe you've done the demo. You're talking about a paid trial, to a prospect that's at 75%. They're perhaps post-trial, and they're now talking about procurement terms, right the way through to a prospect that's at 90%. And that means you've got a purchase order on its way, through to 100%, it's invoiced and paid. So and I'm not saying that's the best metrics, but the point is that you're consistent and your team is consistent about understanding the pipeline weighting. Why is that important? Because when your VC is making an assessment of you, the VC fundraise period, 2 months to get to term sheet from the point that you're signed off as being investor ready, you've got a clear investor proposition, all the right documents, everything's together. It should take you maybe 6 to 8 weeks to get to term sheet stage. So there's 2 months of free assessment a VC can do about, does your pipeline convert in the way you told me it converts? Then you've got long form legals. After you've signed the term sheet, you said, yep, we agree, you're the brilliant investor for us, we'd like to take your 5 million of funding. And now you get to ask us lots more difficult questions called due diligence, as they're delving in and researching harder into your business. And at the same time, you're writing out the legal agreements, the subscription agreement, shareholder agreement, any changes to the memorandum and articles of association that govern the company. While all of that's going on, there's another 2 or 3 months elapses, which means anything that was in your pipeline that was at 90% and likely to convert in the next 60 days, 120 days ago, now creates a potential problem for you. Because if it isn't converting, your VC is going to lose some confidence in you. If it is converting, you're building confidence. Now, you don't have to have done all of that conversion necessarily, but the fact that as part of sales growth, you can talk about the fact that the pipeline weighting is broadly accurate. You don't often get many 90% leads fall over and become a 0% failed prospect. Equally, you don't get many inbound inquiries at a 10% waiting suddenly progress to a purchase order. So by demonstrating that, and again, this is information you already have in the business, but being able to demonstrate those three key parts of the repeatable sales engine. So the fact that you've got evidence that this is how it's worked previously or recently, the fact that you can break that down to a unit economics. Normally, our customers cost us this to acquire and this to service, and they're worth their X. And being clear on the pipeline waiting, that a prospect that lands in your hopper at the top of your funnel in 90 days will have progressed from 10% to 90%. And that all gives your VC confidence in your sales growth over and above purely saying, look at our historic numbers. Okay. Secondly, I would talk about the quality of your clients. So again, things that you've already got, things that are in your business today, but the fact that you might have hit that £1 million revenue threshold, that £1.5 million, 2 million, whatever the number might be. The fact that you've hit it with a hodgepodge, a mix of different types of customers from different types of sectors, different sizes, and different purchase requirements, different buying cycles, all really indicates that this is a bit messy and a bit scrappy. Not necessarily terrible, but you could see how for a busy VC, that might make this one that is a one to watch. Why don't you come back in 6 months when things have normalized? And that's because under a pure definition of product market fit, 40% of your target customers couldn't live without your service. So if your target customers are still horribly broad, as is often the case as you're getting started, as you're a sort of scrappy startup in that first year or two, that's fine, right? But at this stage, the VC wants to see that there's a bit more consistency and quality in your client book. How can you tease that out? It's all well and good saying that would be nice to show, but how do you do that? Well, one tip would be to ask your best customers for testimonials. And those customers that are happy with you are going to be very happy to give a testimonial. It's usually something that's able to be done by you as a founder, or even by your senior sales team, if you're lucky enough to have a senior sales team yet, where they've nurtured a relationship. You shouldn't really need to bribe them horribly, but maybe if it's a big client, if you're in B2B sales and there's one big client, maybe you ask them, when you sit in front of them with a coffee, or you take them out for lunch and talk to them about their needs and how your business is growing and how a testimonial from them could actually be quite helpful. You'll find that most clients are quite happy to give this if they are happy with the service or solution that they're receiving from you. If they're not, you've got to be really wary of that, because if they're not happy, if they think, yeah, it's okay, but I wouldn't rave about it, I wouldn't talk about it publicly, I wouldn't recommend these guys, then that hints at a couple of problems in your business, right? That is a client that's quite likely to churn because of the size of them. And I've suggested that you talk to a bigger and important client to lead your testimonial activity. Then the challenge there is that a VC will want to talk to them as part of their due diligence. So I, your VC, now ring up one of your key clients and say, do you love these guys? Would you continue to use them? Would you recommend them? Would you spend next year with them? Would you spend more with them? And if their answers are no, what's that telling the VC about one of your important clients and therefore your product market fit? So be really, really clear on the quality of the clients that you can evidence. Put the work in to ask for things like testimonials. And within testimonials, you could extend that to case studies. A case study maybe needs less input from the client. You could write the case study and ask them to sign it off. Or referrals even, where you're asking a client, are there other people that you know who would benefit from our service? Now, they're obviously not going to give you a long list of their competitors, because hopefully you're giving them a competitive advantage. But they might give you introductions to people in their supply chain, to partners that they work with, to resellers, to channel relationships, all of which evidences the fact not only that you're topping up your pipeline, but it also evidences the fact that you've got a high quality of client base currently. So that's not the same as saying we've got 3 million of revenue, Mr. VC, Mrs. VC. It's about saying the customers that we've got love what we're doing and are happy to be referenced about that. My next point is on team. So again, a common topic. One of the challenges, and that's a little bit why I begin my introduction with, I've been where you've been, I've sat in your seat, I've run businesses and had all of the pain points of firing useless and dishonest salespeople, and really trying to work hard to make other sales functions work in a business. So I get that saying grow sales, have a great team, it isn't very helpful. So again, back to this kind of direct tips and advice to make this actionable. Think about the team structure. So at the moment, it really, really might be you. It might be you and one other. It might be you and a junior. It might be you and a telesales person generating some initial sales calls or sales visits. So how do you grow that? That's clearly not the future of your business. That's not how you're going to grow to a 10 million revenue, 20 million revenue business. It is where you are right now, but it isn't where you want to be long term. So how much thought can you give to your team structure post fundraise? And that then might mean you've got a very, very clean org chart, organogram, of who sits where and who does what, who reports to whom and why. Is that structure flat? Does it mean that everybody reports to you as the founder? Perhaps. Is the structure more hierarchical? You bring in a chief revenue officer with this next funding round, and the chief revenue officer will have sales director, account managers, some BDRs, and here's how that structure would work. Now, this is stuff that doesn't involve you spending any money today, which is usually a bonus because prior to raising your Series A, you probably don't have a lot of spare money to hire all of these great people, right? But this is giving the thought to how you're going to build structure into your sales function. And structure in a sales function gives your investor confidence that the money that you're putting into sales isn't going to be wasted on the wrong hires, hires in the wrong seniority, too many sales directors, too many sales execs. What does that look like? And again, something that you can solve in advance just by giving it careful consideration and taking advice from those who've done this before. Within that, we've talked about key hires. Maybe you've got a plan to hire a chief revenue officer, sales director, whatever you want to call them, commercial director. So where are you with that hiring process? And again, this can sometimes be a bit painful because you can't really be that far down the line because you can't afford them yet. But don't tell your VC that the future of your business is going to be determined by an as yet unknown, unidentified future sales guru who's going to join your business and act as Superman and make everything fantastic. It's just not believable. So what you could do in advance is think about the job descriptions, is think about the remuneration. How much is base salary? How much is commission? How much is bonus? How much is options? And by thinking that all through and ideally beginning that hunt, it might take you 2-3 months to find the right CRO. It might take them 2 or 3 months to work out of a job where they've got a long notice period. That's 6 months away. If you started recruiting them today, the day that your VC fundraise completes, they're not going to be in your office, in your building until the end of Q1 next year. If it takes them 3 months to get up to speed and 3 months to convert a 90-day sales cycle, you're not going to see any impact of them until a year from now. So shortcutting that and being 2 months, 3 months into that, at the point you go out to talk to VCs and pitch to VCs, is quite a useful way of demonstrating that there are more great people coming to join this business and that the sales function is already beginning to move forward. None of this that I've just outlined under sales growth requires your sales number to be any bigger than it is today and your sales expenditure to be any bigger than it is today. So these are things you could do right now that will help you demonstrate that you've got more evidence of sales growth in the business even before that sales has actually been fully realized. My next point is around image growth. So we're going to stick with three growth things. One was sales growth. The second one is image growth. And this is really important because image is something that you absolutely control. Now, there are a number of you on this call today, a number of you watching this video, and you will all have a view on your image. We're a startup, we think we're pretty cool, some people like us, we've got some likes and some reposts on LinkedIn every time we post. All of these sort of basic things you'll all have. That is not giving you an edge in front of a VC. So how can you work on your image growth as one of those growth channels ahead of a Series A fundraise? Well, it might be that you can give some thought to building out an advisory board. So your ability to say, this is our business. Yep, we are a £1 million revenue tech startup. We're working hard and doing all the things you'd expect us to do. But we have managed to attract XYZ, who is a leading name in our industry, perhaps an exited entrepreneur, perhaps a serial entrepreneur, perhaps somebody with massive domain experience in your world. And they have joined our board, ideally, without it costing you a lot of money. Maybe it's on an options package, maybe it's on a performance basis, maybe it's on a light touch advisory capacity as they build up to a deeper relationship with you post your VC fundraise. But by your ability to say, we're joined by our chairman, our board person, our advisory board, our advisory panel, our advisory committee. You see that the language has softened there as you've gone through those different examples. But that tells the VC that you're a business worth paying attention to. If if somebody illustrious from your industry is spending their time guiding you, supporting you, helping you, then you must be onto something. Now that is a differentiator in a VC's assessment of your business, and yet that is image growth. Right? That's something you could do right now. Now, quite often when I talk to founders, which is basically every day of my life now, when I talk to founders, and I've framed that question, they know the answer. They think, well, I suppose I do know Sir Bob Bobbins, who sold his business for £100 million, and he's been quite helpful. I've been out for lunch with him once or twice. Nurture that relationship. Ask Sir Bob Bobbins if he would be willing to be recognised as an advisor to the business in some capacity. And often that is the reason that your business gets pushed to the top of the pile in front of a VC assessing hundreds of opportunities. It's because they think smarter people than me think that there's something worth watching in this business. I better see if I can unearth what that is. Sticking with image growth, it might be that you can think more about PR. Now, PR to a startup is expensive, scary, it's self-serving, maybe a little bit egotistical, and so it's an easy one to think, I'd love to have it, we haven't got it, we can't afford it, and therefore we're not going to do it. It's worth giving some thought strategically to whether the PR that you could plan for is PR that would enable you to raise your awareness with the right audience. Sort of pause there for a second, because that audience could be your customers, it could be your industry at large, or it could be your prospective investors. So it's worth thinking through what the goal of any PR activity is. And we've got a startup doing some stuff is not a PR hook. That's not going to catch a journalist's attention. But getting written about in the right areas, either so that you are now becoming more well known as a brand to customers and prospects, which then builds on the earlier point of customer quality, client quality, or whether you're able to use that to position yourself as a founder or your business as a thought leader, as an innovator in your industry. So that might be focusing on trade press. And it might be that you want to do something that is going to be picked up by an investor audience. And thinking that through is all ways that you can, without too much effort. Now, this one probably does involve a bit of spend unless you're going to do that PR in-house, but with a little bit of spend, but not crazy spend, you can, over a 3, 4, 5 month period, raise your profile at exactly the moment that that's important for customers, prospects, and investors to see that your profile is growing. Now, that is again another way that you can give yourself an edge in terms of demonstrating some of your growth, the growth of your image in the approach to Fundraise. My last one on image growth is think about not only your brand reach, but your engagement. So there'll be things, again, that are already happening in your business. Your LinkedIn page is getting a greater number of followers. It might be that that your other social activity is beginning to pick up. You're getting great traction for articles and blog posts that you're writing, perhaps. It might be that you're being asked to speak at events, or you are attending events or hosting events within the industry. Again, it all positions you as thought leaders. Put it in another way, because thought leaders, again, overused term and sounds lovely to have, makes you look like a winner, right? I think these guys are going to win because they are the people that the industry is turning to for opinion. That, as a VC, is very powerful. So then we're into events, social, trade bodies, working with your sector bodies, your industry, and that isn't tech. Right? I've worked with the boards at Tech UK and Tech Nation and a whole raft of nationwide tech industries. They're probably not that helpful for your industry. You want to drill down into the subset, the InsurTech trade body, and if there isn't one, could you set one up? Is it something you could build as an alliance? Again, all positions you as growing in terms of your image and your reputation in the market. So that's 2, sales growth and image growth. Third and final one, and then happy to field any questions, is vision growth. Grow your vision. Be clear about how this business is going to become a big business. And so how do you do that? One of the first tips I would give you all is have absolute clarity around the phasing of your go-to-market. So in English, what does that mean? Often when we talk to founders, they will say, what we want to do is build out our UK sales function, launch a new product or service, open in the US, open an office in Singapore, and start a channel sales function. that's pretty tricky, right? There's 4 or 5 things going on there, and yet you've got a small team. You're probably definitely less than 20 people, probably less than 10, and in terms of the people who are able to do that, probably less than 5. So now you're saying each person is going to double their workload by adding a new thing, each commercial person, and that's hard work and it's expensive. One of the VCs that we know well, part of the Venture Path, 6 billion quid of sort of associated VC funding, has said that for every initiative, every commercial initiative, they ascribe £500,000 worth of spend. So your 5 suggestions of things you want to do on day one is 2.5 million quid of your fundraise before you do anything else. Contingency, any planned marketing, any new hires. That's the sort of prospect of a new opportunity or market, adjacent market cost, as stated by a large and successful VC. I can name them as Amadeus. This is their viewpoint. So being clear about when you're going to do those things and what the go-to-market is for our launch in the US. Are we launching cold and going to take the same sad route of thousands of other companies that have tried that approach and failed? Or are we building on the fact that we've already got 1 or 2 people on the ground, we've already got customers pulling us to the US, and we can demonstrate that from our existing client order book? Have we decided that actually the next product launch is going to come in a year's time? Because this year is about commercializing the existing product that we've already got and built. So that way you're moving the ongoing product development costs into overhead rather than into capex, into emergency funding up front to get it out to market. And I'm not saying these are right or wrong. I'm saying just give them some thought in the context of your business, because it's the phasing of that go-to-market by product, by market, or by geography that tells the VC that this isn't just a shopping list of things you'd like to happen in your business. This is a considered plan about a vision to build a bigger business where you've thought through the component stages. Now, sometimes entrepreneurs will think, no, Ian, I don't want to hear that advice. I want to hear that I can do all those 5 things. Your VC is going to be more at the cautious end than you are. And the reason for that is because they've seen companies try those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things consecutively, concurrently, and they've seen those things not always work so well. So there is a degree of maturity there about thinking through, as part of your vision, the clarity around the timing for your plans. I would accompany this always with accurate market sizing. And market sizing is definitely a science as well as an art. The reason being, if you're saying our market is all of these great big companies, that's fine, but they don't all demonstrate the same buying behavior. They don't all have the same propensity to purchase from you. They don't all have the same budgets. They don't all have the same procurement process. So your ability to demonstrate, again, that you've sized your market properly. So this is everybody that could buy it. These are the people that are likely to buy it. These are the people you're going after right now. And it is a very, very focused sniper list of target prospects that you're going after. And because of that, you're getting greater traction, you're shortening the sales cycle, you're benefiting from referrals, testimonials, and case studies to shorten that sales approach because you are more targeted. And that is a really good way of evidencing that you've thought through the market you're in initially, and maybe there's some further thought to the next market and the adjacent market beyond that and the market beyond that. You see how that links to your go-to-market strategy and your market sizing. And by doing those 2 things together, you're telling the investor that, and usually we've got an entrepreneur who's thinking long-term with a vision, not just a hope, but a vision that they've given some real rungs to the ladder of, some real thought to those stepping stones. And this all helps you think about and demonstrate how you can be a big success over time, right? Which is kind of what you want to do. But often that comes out in anecdotal chats post-term sheet with the VC, and they get more excited later. That's great, but perhaps you missed the opportunity to get them that excited about that considered thought process early on. Now, I'll conclude with the implication of all of this. If you do these 3 things, and of those things, maybe only PR should cost you any money, right? So that is, this is stuff that you could do today onwards that won't really cost you any money, right? The implication of that is you're able to demonstrate to your VC on arrival in their meeting room for the very first time. Hello, very pleased to meet you. I'm Ian. Yeah, I had an easy journey here. It's a shame the sun's gone in. Anyway, right, let me tell you a little bit about my business. At that point of entry, you can talk about the fact that what you've built is a proven and repeatable sales engine with a team and a structure that will enable fast deployment of capital, i.e. you can get the money that they're investing in you to work in your business faster than most. And because of that, you're going to be 6, 9, 12, 18 months at the most before you're seeing the benefit of that investment in sales, marketing, tech, product, people, turning into an improvement in the business's revenues and perhaps even profitability. Now that, in an 18-month, 24-month window post-funding, demonstrates that you are a fast-moving, high-growth potential business. The fact that you've got a believable pipeline and you've got relatable references is all builds to that point. It shows that the market has agreed with your assessment of a new future. You've got a business that has got traction and is surrounded by expertise. And because of that, you've got a clear sales plan in a big but obtainable market, perhaps broken down by phases or stages. You see how, if that is how you arrive, you're going to get a lot more keen interest and leaning in from your VC audience than perhaps if you hadn't considered those 3 points of sales growth, image growth, and vision growth. Hope there's a couple of points there that are useful to you, and I will hand back to Holly. Thanks, Holly.
Amazing, thank you, Ian, and thanks everyone for joining. As I mentioned, please feel free to pop any questions in the chat box. We are a relatively small group, so equally, if you want to unmute yourself and pop your hand up, feel free to do that too. I had one question, Ian, from someone who wasn't able to join, which was actually around the links back to your point around not being able to hire people before you've kind of raised the funds, and wanted to get your views on kind of interim solutions, use of fractionals. How else can you resource that before you've got the funding?
Yeah, I think it's a good point, because it's always painful, because you know that quite often as a founder you're doing 5 people's jobs, right? At least some of you are rolling your eyes thinking, I wish it was only 5. So you're doing the finances, you're doing sales, you're involved in tech build, you're trying to run the business, you're trying to hire people, you're trying to schmooze investors, right? There's a lot going on. The most obvious approach is for founders to just think, well, I know what I will need, and when I've got a load of money, I'll hire a CFO, CRO, CTO, and that will be fantastic. The smarter solution is to look at non-linear solutions, right? So a linear solution is, I've hired Bob, I've hired Jane, and they're going to sit next to me and do all of this work. The non-linear solution is just being a bit smarter about that. So for many of the key functions of a business, certainly CMO, marketing, CTO, technical, CFO, financial, there are fractional expertise available. You can hire a CFO a day a week, a day a fortnight, a day a month. And so that can be a good way to begin to demonstrate you've got more experience, more expertise available to the business, more grey hair, sadly. And all of that can be quite a useful way to show that in the short term, you're covering the roles properly with great expertise. In the medium term, that expertise will transition to sitting in on last stage interviews with your new full-time CFO and handing over the work that the fractional, more experienced CFO perhaps did. And that long term, you will be able to bed in that future hire CFO that you've not yet identified. And that might take 6-9 months, but the business isn't going to fall over in terms of the numbers and forecasting and analysis in the next 3-6-9 months, while it takes you to onboard a dedicated full-time CFO, because you've got a competent CFO and an interim or fractional or non-exec capacity. The same, it's obviously really easy for C-suite to look for fractional hires, probably not in CRO. Chief Revenue Officer Sales is a harder one to resource in a fractional capacity. But it might be that you want to look at agencies, partnerships, other ways that you can begin to shortcut that approach to having that expertise in the business, in the building immediately. And again, that all hints that you're getting the job done, even if you're not yet able to get the job done by full-time hires absolutely locked into the business.
Brilliant, thank you. We've also got actually a question just come in from Maria in the chat box, which looks, thanks for the vision. It's really difficult to strike a balance between not looking that you'll spread yourself too thinly and too many suggestions and explore ambitious. Any advice on how you hit that balance, essentially? How you can strike a balance?
Okay. I was reading Maria's question as well, seeing that you are thinking small. Okay, so I think this is to bridge this gap, because this is a contradiction, right? And VC world is full of contradictions. Different VCs give you different opinions. Different people you meet along the way give you their views. You've got a team, you've got a board, you've got perhaps seed investors, all of whom are quite opinionated people. And because of that, everybody can give you a different angle on, oh, I would do this, or I would do that, which is really, really awkward. So a little bit reading between the lines of Maria's question in the chat, it is a difficult balance. You've got the plan to build a great big business, and you've got where you are today. But this is where this approach of phasing and stepping stones gets you there. Because then you can say, 5 years from now, we'll have built Film Chain into the, I don't really know what you do, Maria, so apologies if this is a terrible analogy, but let me try and do it on my feet. In 5 years from now, we'll have built Film Chain into an indispensable layer in the tech stack for film and movie creation. Where we are today is we've got partnerships with a couple of key studios, distributors, content creators, and we're generating our first $1 million of revenue. The route that we plan to go on to get us from where we are now to where we want to be is year one, doubling down and making sure that instead of working with 5 studios, we're working with the top 10 of 15 available opportunities in the UK. Into year two, we want to have sold them our first product that already exists and begin to test and trial our second product, which rapidly increases the amount of spend and therefore our attractiveness and also our stickiness to those customers. Year three sees us launch internationally, building on the fact that our customers already have an international footprint. Year four sees perhaps an optional Series A, Series B, further funding round to help accelerate our growth. And year five sees us open our Singapore hub, at which point we are able to cover Europe, US, and Singapore and Asia with a business that has a multi-product offering with a blend of one-off and highly sticky recurring revenue, which positions us in that indispensable role as a indispensable layer within the media industry's tech stack. Terrible example, Maria, please don't shoot me. But the idea there is that by breaking it down into those stages, I know what we need to prove in the next year, 18 months with my money as your VC. Your job will be to spend that money in the next 12, 18 months, typically 24 months if it's a very large Series A. But it's that kind of timescale. So being clear about, here's our great vision, and wouldn't you like to own a piece of that global layer to the media industry's tech stack? And here's where we are now. We've got these great proof points, but here's what we've thought through. And maybe that helps.
Thanks,
I see a question there from Finn. Hi, Finn. Thanks for the useful insights in. You're very welcome. Macroeconomic question. Okay, so it is warming up a bit. There's good news. The first half of this year was a car crash for VC, a little bit driven by the back end of 22 as well. We've had weird macroeconomic times. I do read too much data and analysis to be fun at parties now, because I can answer this question. 2020 was COVID, we all remember that, right? The hot summer, working from home. 2021 was a massive catch-up year. All the deals that didn't get done got done, which then meant the first half of 2022 felt like a hangover from that. It meant VCs had come in too excited and had backed companies at high valuations because there was a lot of competition for deals because people were playing catch-up. 2022 saw some reservation coming back into the market in the summer, exasperated then by the Ukraine, by global issues, by interest level raises, and all of that has knocked confidence, which has meant that a lot of deals were then not done in the first half of 2023. And for companies that were running out of cash in the first half of 2023, that was a terrible, terrible time, because your cash is probably not going to come from a new VC at a premium uplifted valuation. You're going to get flat round, a down round, an easy pass from VCs, and that meant that bad companies trying to raise couldn't raise. Medium companies struggled and often went with internal and bridge rounds. The rise of venture debt over the last 9 months has been far quicker than the last 9 years, because people are trying not to price rounds in this period. And then good companies said, you know what, we will not raise right now. So bad companies desperate to raise, medium companies being savvy about it, and good companies delaying. The reality is, without this turning into Electron Limited Partners, the investors who invest in funds who give their money to fund managers, to the investment directors and investment fund managers that you go and pitch, are not giving those VCs a free pass because life is hard and difficult. They're saying find better businesses, look harder, get that money out the door. That money sat in escrow, essentially committed to a fund but not invested in a company, is dead money. It's not doing its job. So because of that, we're seeing market sentiment beginning to turn. August is always a flat month, but we saw lots of VCs trying to get ahead of the curve for September when a lot of businesses go out to market. And now we know that not only the regular VC market's coming back, but VCTs, venture capital trusts, and EIS funds who have to invest in a given tax year, the clock is now ticking as of 13th of September for them to get that money invested into companies in your bank account before the 30th of March, in a process that often takes 4 to 6 months. 4 months on the inside, 6 months on the outside, excluding awkward things that get in the way like Christmas when no one's doing any work. So that does mean that there is a bit of a wall of cash locked in the system that needs to come out by March. There is a return to normality. And I think then the only point I would suggest, Finn, to make that not all sound like it's fantastic, great news, is that the valuations have come down generally on where they were. They're not as aggressive as they were in the first half of this year, but they're not as optimistic as they were 2 years ago when people were playing catch up post-COVID. So it is becoming better, but it's not a walk in the park. It is something you would probably benefit from getting some expert guidance and advice on how to unlock that funding in a timescale that works for your business.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll kind of wrap up questions there. Hopefully you found it a really useful session. This kind of support and the advice and the expertise that Ian's just delivered is exactly what we offer to venture path founders one-on-one. So if it is the kind of support that you're after, I'm going to be in touch shortly. So let's connect, let's have a call. And yeah, thank you again for joining, and hopefully see you all soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.